sliceofscifi.com.
Hey Slicers, it's Brian here in Glendale, California at Spectral Motion. And if you thought that two 8-foot-tall humanoid robots battling until ultimate destruction was something you could only find in sci-fi, then you're gonna love to meet this man, Mark Setrakian, the creator of Robot Combat League.
Are you ready for robot carnage?
This is actually happening.
We're gonna win this competition.
Robot Combat League.
How's it going, Mark?
I'm doing great, Brian.
Last night was the premiere of your show. How did it feel?
It was amazing.
Yeah?
It was amazing. Yeah, we had a party. We had the whole crew that actually built the robots here in the shop was there, and it was kind of surreal seeing it on the big screen finally.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how long did it take to build some of these robots?
Well, the robots for the show were built right here in the shop, and we had 4 months to build 12 giant fighting machines for the show. And if it wasn't for the crew that I work with here on a regular basis at Spectral Motion, it would have been impossible. But we rallied and we got this stuff together. Actually, I can show you a little bit about how these things came about. This is the prototype robot. This is the only robot that's still in one piece. This is Hades. This is my prototype. And this machine was built first as a proof of concept. And it was the model, kind of the starting point, if you will, that all 12 of the series robots were based on.
At what point in your career did you decide you wanted to battle robots?
Pretty early on, actually. I got my start at ILM up in the Bay Area, California. This is George Lucas's effects company, and they did the Star Wars movies. And I just, as a teenager, I wanted to work there, and I did. I got a job at ILM when I was 19, and one of my colleagues at ILM was named Mark Thorpe, and he created an event in the early '90s called Robot Wars. It was in San Francisco, fighting robots, and I was one of the first people to compete at this first ever, engineering challenge. And in 1995, I was the heavyweight champion.
Nice.
And that was kind of the bug that I started building these things that they were not for special effects. They were not for that kind of commercial art. It was a whole new engineering thing. And I couldn't quit. It was so gratifying,
You just got
so
the
cool.
bug.
I did. And this is like the ultimate expression of that.
So what is the major difference between one of these robots and an alien from Men in Black?
That's a good question.
Could they fight the same way?
They really couldn't. I mean, the big thing, and it's actually it is a really good question, because the stuff that we build for special effects, the whole thing is part of an illusion. The robot might be made of fiberglass. All of the stuff that makes the robot work could be under the floor in the back room. You could have half of it could be green screen. All these different tricks you can use, and even the set could be designed to support the illusion. You could have rods coming up through the floor or anything like that. These robots have to be really self-contained. Everything that runs this robot is inside. The only thing that's outside of it is the power source, which is actually very important. So I have basically this massive hydraulic pump, and the robots are completely self-contained. I plug them into power and they come on. They walk around, they can run in the arena, they can bleed, they can fight, and they can just go at it, for 3 solid rounds. Actually, spoiler alert, the final fight is a 5-round epic battle.
Unbelievable. After seeing last night, I cannot wait to see more.
It gets brutal.
Do these things have an Achilles heel? What would you say is the...
Well, the funny thing is, we never really knew going into this exactly what was going to happen. Until we actually had 2 robots in the arena, and the arena was built and the control systems were all made, we didn't really know what was going to happen when they started slugging it out. So I would say probably the weakest area is probably the torso. But that...
and what about the torso?
Well, the torso is what we call a motion base. It's a 6-actuator system, and these 6 actuators work together to give the torso 3 degrees of freedom. So the robot can roll, and it can do all this core strength maneuvering that's important
like
in
a normal
fighting.
fight. Yeah.
Exactly, because you've got to have all this strength in your torso, and the robot has all that. But as a result, there isn't actually a spine. All of the structure is made entirely of actuators, and if one actuator breaks, then you could potentially have a domino effect where they all start to get compromised. And that has happened. This is welded stainless steel. That's another thing about these robots. They're actually made of steel. They're actually made of the materials that
How
you would
hard
make.
can one of these things punch?
They're brutal. Look, come take a look at this one
Yeah,
right here.
absolutely.
So this this is just the bare inner skeleton of one of these machines. And what you see here, these are the torso actuators. This is a 1-inch diameter. These are the, that's a bicep actuator right there. When I say actuator, I'm basically saying this is like a muscle. This is like the part of the robot's body that corresponds to part of a human body.
Okay.
And so by energizing this thing with high pressure hydraulic fluid, we can make this thing extend and retract, and it can move its elbow with precision and force. And we're pressurizing this thing with 2,000 psi fluid.
That's why you see the spray.
Yeah, so when the thing breaks open, which happens when it gets damaged, you see this geyser of fluid. It's also, it's like a 50-gallon per minute flow.
Oh, wow.
So if these things get opened up, I mean, you know, by the end of the round, you could have an inch of fluid on the floor. So
you can see it covered in some of the fluid.
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. They bleed, and you can only clean them up so much. And after a while, it's like you know, the pits at NASCAR. You're working feverishly to get these things together again, and then you patch them up, get them back in the ring.
As soon as they're done.
Yeah.
So how much is one of these things worth?
Well, they're pretty expensive. Certain parts of these things are actually shockingly expensive. There's the stuff that I make, like all these aluminum pieces, these machine parts here, the legs, the skeleton, right, the structure, the rib cage, and all the arm pieces. All of those things are things that I make here in the shop.
Oh, wow.
That right there, that's called a servo valve. And that is a very special, it's like a military product that is the important, this is like the ganglion that fires the muscle. And this thing controls how precisely the cylinder can move. So that super high pressure flows into this valve, and the valve then sends that fluid to the actuator, to the muscle, a lot like a ganglion. This little thing here costs about $2,500.
Oh, wow.
And the robot has 22 of them.
Oh my God, you can see all of them. That's amazing.
Do the math, and you see how they get pretty expensive pretty fast.
It's like two Mercedes-Benz fighting.
Yeah, Jericho says the same thing. It's like watching two Lamborghinis in a smash-up derby. And it's a good analogy.
How can you not watch?
Well, I can't not watch.
How do you feel seeing other people control your creations?
Oh, it's great, actually.
You don't cringe every time they get hit?
You know, I don't. And the funny thing is, someone was asking me about that last night. It's actually one of the guys who was working on set. He was recollecting how, you know, he's watching the fight and the things are getting destroyed. He's like, oh God, Setrakian must really be like bummed out. He's looking around and he sees me by the side of the ring and I'm cheering and jumping up and down. It's like, this is what they were made for.
Right.
You know?
Seeing your creations destroy each other.
Well, you know, there's like in the special effects world, you can work for weeks on a model spaceship or a building or something, and the whole purpose is to blow it up. If you blow it up and the shot is great, it's like, yeah, right on, perfect. Right, if it's no good, you have to do it over again, that's a bummer. But watching these things get torn to shreds was part of part of what they're for.
Did you design the software as well?
To some extent, yes, but I had the great fortune of being able to use a system called the overdrive system. And I'm going to show you some other creatures in the shop. Like if it's the grass wolf. So that creature there has what we call an embedded computer inside it. And for that film, I put the overdrive embedded computer in the scrunt, and then I used my own computer and my own software to control it. For this, I used the whole system. I used the overdrive system inside the robot, and then we also have the external control, and the control runs plugins. So we can write plugins that do everything that we need to do that's really specific, like the inverse kinematics for the motion base and the legs and the walking algorithm and all the things that translate the movements of a human body into the robot body.
Right,
so,
from the controls.
Yeah, through the controls. So the Overdrive system was a great platform to build upon to make that happen. And the team at Overdrive actually wrote all of the plugins to my specifications. So
amazing, that's awesome.
It's interesting because, you know, the robot is kind of a crude imitation of a human body. And I say it's crude because, you know, the human body is an incredible machine. It's got hundreds and hundreds of muscles. This thing has 22. So I'm trying to imitate what the body can do with this mechanism. So what the control system is doing is it's taking the movement of a fighter, the movement of this person's body, and it's translating that human anatomy into robot anatomy. So those movements are recreated here correctly using this different arrangement. So
through the computer. That's
through
impressive.
The computer.
That is a very impressive software.
It is, and it works great.
And actually, can you show me the controls? Can you explain the controls?
Absolutely, sure. Let's start over here. So this thing, why don't we just strap you into it?
Awesome.
Do you mind? Here,
yeah, that'd be great.
Just put your arms, let me loosen this up a little bit. And this is, so go ahead and slip your arm through there. And then we're going to slip you through. This is already loose, so go ahead and slip through that too.
My God.
And then go ahead and strap this thing across the front of your chest. And then I'm going to tighten these guys back here pretty tight. There you go. So this is, and then there's a counterweight. I'm going to.
I was about to say, it's surprisingly light.
Well, it's a little bit like a Steadicam. You know, it's like it's
yeah,
been
very
negated,
fluid.
so it floats on your body. Go ahead and grab the handles.
Oh my
and
God.
The counterweight's not exactly perfect for you, so I'm just going to keep my finger on this.
Okay.
Normally what we do is we actually fine-tune the counterweight to each contestant.
Oh, wow, okay.
And we also can fine-tune the dimensions of the suit for each contestant as well. So I can change the width of the shoulders. It's a little narrow for you right now, but I could widen it out to match your frame, and then we can also adjust the length of the arms, which is also a little, it's actually pretty good. The elbows,
feels pretty
not
good.
bad. So
I feel like I'm strapped into a video game right now.
So the thing about this controller is that these joints in the arms and the joints in the elbows have the same range of motion as the robot does. Oh. So when you extend your arm, go ahead, throw a punch. So
okay.
do you feel those
it
limits?
Stops me. Yep.
Right. So now let's say you're trying to throw a punch. So extend your arm. Now you got to get over here. So you got to twist your body to make that connect. So go ahead and do that. Kind of roll your body forward. There you go. See now that movement in the torso.
Right.
That will get translated as well. So as you move your body and twist your torso, the robot will do all that. And if you feel it's like, I'm not going to connect because I'm not extending far enough, you naturally and intuitively move your body
sideways to make that connection.
Exactly. And
this is so cool.
The fighters who really nailed it are the ones who figured that out early on and used every joint in the control system to operate the robot.
Really utilize the whole system. That's unbelievable. This is so cool. Is this how you control animatronics as well?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
This
is, in fact, this is something that we sometimes have on a movie set. Like, for example, for Hellboy, there was the mummified corpse on Hellboy's back. And in the Spectral Motion reel, you can see the mummy, raising its arm and pointing, and off camera, there's someone in a cable-controlled suit like this, moving their arm to make that arm move.
Unbelievable.
The difference here is that
cool.
this is actually, like, technology-wise, like 5 steps ahead of that.
Oh, wow.
Because we've got the computer interface, and this thing is designed to take an absolute beating. Let's think about it. The people who are in this suit are athletes, and they've got adrenaline just pouring through their veins. And so they're going to be beating this thing up as hard as the robots are beating up each other.
So true. Now there's a couple triggers on here.
Yeah,
what
that's
do
right.
These do?
There's a couple of things that we can do with these. Some of the robots have, well, one of them in particular has a head that moves around, and you can control that with this joystick. So Thunderskull's head, and also Steel Cyclone has this like scanning eye, and you can control it with this.
It's
not really important for fighting,
right.
but it's like a nice detail.
Absolutely.
The other thing that we can do, and I'm not really sure how much this was actually utilized in the show, is we can program on these buttons little combination moves. So you can get yourself kind of lined up, and you can hit a button, and the robot will actually execute a combination very quickly.
Ah, okay. So they're like pre-programmed moves almost?
Right, and it's like a little bonus thing that some of the contestants get to use a little later on in the show.
Amazing.
And some of them liked it and some of them didn't. It was interesting how that kind of thing works out. It's like, well, if you push this button, the robot will do something cool, but you'll be out of control for a moment. And some of them thought it was good to use that extra move, and some of them just didn't want to chance it, didn't want to have that moment where maybe they'd get hit during that time.
Crucial moment, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's all about strategy.
So where are the sensors in this that
So this is one right here, this little thing here. And inside here, there's a gear that connects this rotation to this sensor. So as you go back and forth, it's called a potentiometer. It actually turns the exact correct number of degrees to match up to what we need the robot to correspond to.
This is so cool.
And then there's another one here, which is linear. Do you see that?
Yes.
So as you
as I pull forward.
As you move your arm up and down, too, you'll see that thing extend and retract.
Okay.
There you go. And again,
I can't believe how fluid this is. It's like weightless. It's amazing.
Thank you.
This is very cool.
Well,
is this your own design?
It is. Yeah.
Very cool.
And I can tell you again that the design of the suit really came from the design of the robot. And I was thinking about both of them at the same time because they're a match set. You really need them to work perfectly together. And so I was thinking about the whole system together as I was designing the robots.
So what inspired each design?
Oh, a lot of things. Sometimes the design of the robot just started out as a silhouette. It's like brimstone. It's like this kind of hulking thing, and then after a while, it's like, what if we make it out of leather, and what if we give it like this hammered steel dome? And the details kind of emerge from the silhouette that you start with. Others, like Axe, I literally walked into the design room. We have a design room here, and I had drawn this picture of the Axe head. I said, here's the head. Now design a body to go with it. And sometimes that's how it would start out. The soldier robot, we knew we wanted to have like a military-themed robot, and in the case of Commander, it's like this kind of World War II tank-inspired thing. And Drone Strike is like kind of like, taking robotic warfare and imagining what like the most sinister possible future would be for that. So this is Commander's shoulder armor, and that's his head.
This is his head. This is actually quite heavy.
Well, it's made of steel, just like just like everything else.
Oh my God!
And look at it; it's basically like a metal sculpture.
Oh, it absolutely is.
It's like a one-of-a-kind piece of artwork.
It looks like it's taken a couple punches too.
It has, yeah. Well, if you check out his body, he's actually in pretty good shape.
Considering, and this is all steel plating.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my God!
And you see, this is what it looks like on the inside. You see all these welds, these tack
like
welds?
Hours worth of welding.
It's amazing how much stuff you can get done with the right tools and the right people. It's true. The workload on this project was crazy. I knew going into it that building the skeletons, like the understructure that I showed you, was going to be a real challenge. But making 12 unique characters and designing the skins, because they're all different, you can't mass produce them because each one is a totally different character. So that was daunting. But we did it.
And the core of each robot is the same. They're all identical.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just the skins that are different.
There's two things that make the robots different from one another. One is just the nature of the skin itself, the parts that are covered, the parts that aren't covered. And the other thing is the reach of the robot, because each robot, let's see, I'm going to try and find an example for you. Well, check this out. So each robot has a unique weapon. This is the spike ball. This is actually Hades' original weapon, and we polished it up and made it the mace fist for medieval. So this weapon, if you measure the distance from the tip of this spike to the mounting plate here, this is the quick disconnect that allows us to attach it and detach it. That distance is different for every robot.
Oh, wow.
Some of the robots, like Axe, has actually like these stout but kind of short fists. So it's really optimized for close quarters fighting. So it's got this big sort of barrel chest, and this axe face, and it kind of gets in there and it like chops you with its axe and does these body blows. And it's really perfect for that. So if it gets inside the range of, let's say, a robot like Drone Strike, it has these big, long, like Gatling gun fists. That thing is designed to hold its enemies at bay and strike at a distance. So tactically, these two robots are really different. But strength-wise, they're matched evenly. And that was really important to me because I wanted this to be really a contest between two athletes. And the robots are there, and they're doing the fighting and the bleeding, but it's really a fight between two athletes, four, because it's a team of two against a team of two.
A robo-jockey, right?
Yeah, the robo-jockey and the tech. Yeah, these two guys working, or girls working together. One team in particular, I actually was still working on Drone Strike when we started bringing the cast in. And I met Syfy for the first time, and I realized that she's a champion gamer. She's like a legend. My software team was like geeking out. They were like, "That's Syfy." Like, really? Who is that? And I kind of looked her up. It's like, okay, cool. So she's like a a shooter,
she's well known.
She's really well known. It's like, all right. I was kind of having like a little writer's block on what weapons Drone Strike should have, and after I met Syfy, I thought, perfect. I'll make Gatling guns for it. So I gave it these big chromoly steel, 6-shooters. They don't actually shoot, but they're heavy and they hurt.
So what can we expect to see this season?
You're going to see some incredible carnage, incredible robot carnage, and moments that are shocking, exciting. I'm very close to it, and I'm very, very, very critical of my own work. I'm very critical of technically how it all goes together and how it's performed in the, when the robot is operated by the contestants. And I was just blown away. It was amazing.
Were there any malfunctions in the programming?
Actually, no, there weren't, and I'm very happy about that, because one of the things that I really did not want to have happen is I didn't want to have a match stop because the controller wasn't working right, or there was a bug in the software, or there was an electrical glitch or something like that that actually stopped the match and there was, within the system that we designed, nothing failed. The robots stopped working because they had had the crap beaten out of them. It wasn't because of some glitch or some failure. Yeah, it was like, all right, that robot is broken because this other robot hit it until it died, not because something failed in the system.
Well, that's great to hear. So you put a lot of effort into that then.
You know, it's a funny engineering challenge because normally when you talk to engineers, and I was talking to an engineer and I was talking about how, well, there's this linkage at the back of the arm, and it kept breaking during the training matches or the sparring robots. I'm like, huh. So that's actually not good, because if that linkage breaks, that's something I make. It's not something I can buy. So I make it out of a new alloy, and now it doesn't break anymore. But now the breakage goes somewhere else. Any engineer will tell you that. As soon as you have something that stops breaking here, it's going to break somewhere else. And the somewhere else where it started breaking was actually a better place for it to break. Both technically for me, because it was a piece that I could replace, but also in the context of the show, it was visual. It's like, that just broke. I can see it from way back here. I can see that just broke, which makes for a much better fight, both visually and technically.
They last longer then.
Well, it still breaks. It still breaks, but...
So these actually, they can fight, they can keep going if they spring a leak and start bleeding.
Oh yeah, yeah, they can.
About how long can they go for?
Well, the full round. Yeah,
rounds.
it's two. Yeah, well, they can go 2 minutes bleeding, and sometimes what we can do is, if we really know, if we have the team that are working, and there's also I have constant communication with the systems operators that are basically monitoring the low-level sort of vital signs of the robots during the fight. And it's like okay, the right bicep just blew off. All right, it's geysering fluid. All right, let's take number 7 valve and reduce it to 50%, and I can actually slow down the bleeding.
Oh, wow.
I can't stop it, but I can at least slow it down to the point where the thing isn't just drained completely during the fight.
That's amazing.
So, but it doesn't happen very, I mean, that kind of thing, it's like you're literally kind of repatching the thing while the thing is fighting, so it's very seat of the pants.
Totally, the whole show.
Yeah.
I loved it. The best part of the entire show is watching these two robots just absolutely go at it and destroy each other.
It's pretty great. And as the show goes on, you know, the contestants watch. I mean, Baiano was terrific. You know, you watch him like wind up and then unload, and he really had the timing down. A lot of the contestants watching that first match, like the light bulb went off, and it's like, okay, I see how this is gonna go.
Get some strategy.
Right, exactly. And so as the series progresses, you see more and more skill and strategy and experience coming to bear in the fights.
It's like Rock'em Sock'em Robots on steroids.
It is.
All right, Mark, tell me, why is this so damn cool?
Did you think it's cool?
Absolutely.
You like the show, right?
I love it. I thought it was amazing last night.
I do too. I actually really love the show. And I think that this fighting speaks to a primal instinct that all people have, all animals. I mean, we're basically wired for two things, run and fight. It's the fight or flight mechanism, right? And running became racing, which eventually, with the invention of the automobile, became car racing. With that technology, athletes could suddenly go faster than any living thing. But until now, there hasn't been a technological equivalent for fighting. So now we have the ability to take fighting and allow athletes to punch harder than they ever could before, and to survive injuries that they could not normally survive. And I think that's why this is so fascinating to watch, because it really is athletes in these suits. They really are experienced fighters who are using their instincts and their skill at fighting, and they're channeling them through these robots. And the robots are designed basically to tear each other apart, but no one's getting hurt. I think there are, for whatever the reason, there are people who really don't want to watch fighting shows. I don't watch MMA because I don't actually like watching people get hurt. But fighting is something that's fascinating to everyone. And for a show like this, I could watch this all day long.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's another thing that's really interesting about this is that because of the technology, it's an even playing field. So you have men against women fighting equally. You have big people and small people. You have people of all different walks of life and all different statures, and the stature is taken out of the equation. So it's really interesting to see how the girls do against the boys. And when I talk about the boys, I'm talking about like Devonrick, who is like a real athlete. I mean, he's really a boxer. But can he use his experience effectively through the robot? Or is someone like Diana or Amber, who's never had this amount of physical strength before, are they going to suddenly rise to the occasion and utilize it in ways that maybe their opponent isn't going to expect? It's a fascinating question.
It's a great leveler.
Yeah.
Makes the playing field totally level.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting.
And there's just something so compelling about watching two robots destroy each other.
Yeah, but also there's the human element too. It's like, yeah, the robots are destroying each other, but there's these people, and you look at their faces. You know, you look at Amber's face in that first match when she's losing the first round, and it's like, it's a robot, but it has a soul. It has her soul. So
last night we saw the show premiere on the Syfy channel.
Yeah.
What makes the Syfy channel such a good place for this?
The Syfy channel. So it was almost 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago, when I first was approached about this project. And the producers at Smart Dog Media, Jeremy Whittam and Craig Plestes, had the germ of an idea for a fighting robot show. And they were looking for people that could do it. And eventually they found me, and we started collaborating on this thing. And I kind of took the idea and really fleshed it out into something that was very audacious, very ambitious, a little crazy even. And they pitched it to Syfy. Actually, the three of us did. We pitched it to Syfy. And at this point, I have to tell you that I've been asked by some people, is there some key technology that made this project possible? And the answer is yes, there's actually two things: money and courage. And I've said this before, but Syfy had the courage to fund something that no one knew whether it was going to work or not. I mean, it's really hard to innovate in entertainment, because how do you make a schedule for something that's never been done before? How do you make a budget for something that you really don't know what the result is going to be? It's like, okay, guys, we need to buy some spare parts. It's like, well, what spare parts? Well, we're not really sure what part is going to break when they go into the arena because we haven't done a fight before. It's like, well, we're not going to buy any spare parts. It's like, guys, you got to buy some spare parts. And later on, it's like, buy spare parts. It's like, yeah, we told you anyway. So, but the fact is, they had the courage to step up and make this happen.
And it's amazing. Absolutely, truly unique show concept.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, thanks. It was a lot of work, but it was worth it.
Well, we're here at Spectral Motion. How did things come about here?
So the way the project moved to Spectral was after I had built Hades, the prototype, and we sold it into Syfy, and all of a sudden the project became very real. It's like, okay, I got to get a lot of work done really, really quickly. I took the whole project and I moved it into Spectral Motion. And Michael Elizalde just said, bring it on. And the crew here I've worked with for years, and we know each other really well. We have an excellent working relationship. And I can't imagine being able to do this anywhere else. It was easy to do the hardest job ever here in this environment. I've done, I think, some of my favorite movies here at Spectral Motion, the Hellboy series, and there's a creature up here called the Scrunt from Lady in the Water. That's a grass wolf. And actually, that is one of the creatures that was perhaps foundational to my work on Robot Combat League. Every project that I work on, I try to elevate the art a little bit. And in the case of the Scrunt, as I said before, I brought in a little bit of the overdrive system. And I started working on inverse kinematics in the legs. It's like baby steps into a more complex way of controlling something that has a lot of actuators and legs and everything synchronized. That work was kind of the foundation of what it took to make these guys. So everything feeds into everything else.
Absolutely, and the people here at Spectral helped you big time in that.
Yeah, they did. We have obviously this machine shop that we're in right now. We have a welding area over there. We have, in the next bay, we have a fabrication department, and that actually is, we talk about the design of the robots and how do you get from a sketch to something that's welded out of steel. Some of those pieces are pretty complicated. What we were able to do here was, in some cases, the robots were designed entirely in the computer, in CAD, and then I would send files out and have those pieces made and bring them back to the shop, and we would work them here in the metal shop, and the guys would weld them together. Or in the fabrication area, one of the guys, Fred Fraley, would take the sketch, and he would make in a matter of hours, make a life-size foam mock-up of this thing out of foam, which is his medium. And it was brilliant because you'd walk in the room, it's like, wow, there it is, full size, this thing. It's like lightweight, and it's just really easy to work with material.
Almost real
life.
life.
Easy for him anyway. Yeah, it's like real life size. And then we could either use that as a guide for some more computer designs, or just take the whole thing and hand it to a metal sculptor like Todd Farron and say, Todd, here, take this and make this out of metal. He'd say, okay, he'll take it, and then he'll use the techniques that he uses, patterning and cutting and welding, to turn this life-size model into something made of steel, welded steel. And what's great about having a full-size mock-up like that is that there's no questions. It's like, well, here it is from the back, here it is from the top. He's got everything he needs.
So what's your favorite part of this whole process?
I like so much about it. I like the process of going from a thought to a physical thing. You know, having an idea and then seeing it come to life. So I guess my favorite moment really is that moment when the robots are first going at it, because that's like, it's like, you know, it's like from beginning to end. That's the end right there. It's like that's what we're working so hard to get to. But I love the artistry. I love it. I love working with the people here. It's a very complex and difficult process, but it's strangely pleasurable for me.
Well, we thank you and Spectral Motion for everything from the movies we have seen to Robot Combat League.
Thanks.
I am so excited to see the rest of the season.
Well, you won't be disappointed. It's pretty awesome.
The destruction is just, I love it.
You use that word a lot. You seem to really,
destruction,
you're
yeah,
kind of hung up on the destruction thing. Destruction.
That's
You
like
want to see
the
more
big
destruction.
thing. So you guys have to check out Robot Combat League on the Syfy channel, and I will see you guys soon.
SliceofSciFi.com.